one of my favorites, also joining us on the line right now. And when I heard the news about Michael Sam, it was one of the first guys that I wanted to talk to, given our previous conversations with him, a former CFL All-Star, three-time Pro Bowler, and Super Bowl champion. Brendon Ayanbadejo joins us here in Tim and Sid. Brendon, how you doing today?
Good. It's a nice morning here in California. I'm doing all right. How you guys doing up there?
I'm guessing it's a little colder, and there's a little more snow on the ground. How much snow on the ground in California as we speak?
I think negative 1,000 inches.
Right. So I think my guess was correct that we had a little more snow. Hey, listen, yesterday we spent a lot of time talking about Michael Sam. Earlier today, I spent a little bit of time talking about the story. I know that you have been, I can call him civil rights activist. I can call him LGBT speaker, someone who has advocated for same-sex marriage in the past. When did you find out about this story, and what was your initial reaction?
Yeah, so Cameron Weiss and Joe Barquette from Empire Sports, they reached out to me a few weeks ago.
His agents?
Regarding, they're his representation. They reached out to me a few weeks ago in regards to a player that they have that's entering the draft that was gay, and it ended up being Michael Sam. So we just got on the hump and started strategizing on how and when we're going to, present to the rest of the world that we have a gay potential NFL draft pick.
Did it surprise you that a draft prospect was the first in North America's big four sports, hockey, baseball, basketball, to come out and say, not come out, but come out and say, because apparently he'd already done that, he'd already come out to his team, but come out and tell the media, tell the world, tell his prospective employers that he's gay? Did it surprise you that it was someone walking into, the meat market that is the NFL draft?
Yeah, absolutely. It did surprise me that it wasn't someone that's already, comfortable and established in their career. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, he's so young and naive that it's playing, itself out to his advantage, because he's not concerned, with what happened with Kerry Rhodes or what happened with Jason Collins. He's young enough to benefit from all the dominoes of discrimination that those that came before him knocked over, like David Kopay or Jerry Smith or Ezra Tuolo, Wade Davis. So it's just a perfect storm. It's the right time. It's the right place. He's a young guy. He's a confident man, and he's not, he's not scared.
I'm curious about the strategizing, because that's really intriguing to me. I love the timing. I love the kid because I think his confidence puts him in a great spot, but also any team that drafts him will now know, and you would think would be in the position to provide the proper environment. No?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't go too much into the strategy, but the main emphasis was basically to distance this announcement as far as they could from actual football. So every day that goes by that you don't make the announcement, it's closer to football. And already, the NFL scouts already knew. Every team already knew. 26 out of 32 teams had already contacted Michael Sam. Most of the teams have known. At the Combine and at the Senior Bowl, all these scouts, they get together and they talk. And this was one of the big topics that they were talking about. So now we put the onus on the NFL that the rest of the world knows now. Now do the right thing. Do what you were going to do before. Draft a kid in the second, third, fourth round, whatever it was going to be. And now you have time to strategize, get your team ready, get management ready, get everybody ready to create a nice, inclusive environment for this young man.
Brendon Ayanbadejo joining us here on Tim and Sid, Fox Sports, foxsports.com, Fox Football Daily, which you can see on Sportsnet. I'm glad that you brought up that last point, because I called a little BS earlier on in the show on all the positivity surrounding Sam's story. And I'm not saying that it's not great to hear that, and it's not a change, and it's not a step in the right direction or an evolution even, that there was all that positivity around him. But if everyone was all so positive, if it was all sugar plums and unicorns, he wouldn't be the first one in the four major sports. There would be others around him. Do you feel like there is now pressure on the NFL and pressure on teams to make sure that he doesn't drop too much, and make sure that all those things that are being said, there's a little practicing in the preaching?
Yeah, I think the pressure that's created is that the NFL has to do the right thing. if he's not a draft candidate, if he's going to be a rookie free agent, he wouldn't have been the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. He wouldn't have the single season sack record at University of Missouri, which he shares with Aldon Smith. He wouldn't have accomplished a lot of the things that he's accomplished. So the only pressure is just doing the right thing and not being scared that you have a gay player. Go out there, don't even look at his sexuality, look at him, grade him based on what his accomplishments are that he's already done, the film that you already have, his performance at the combine, his interviews when you dissect his mentality and the type of person that he is, and then go do the right thing. Go do what you would have done had he been a heterosexual player.
I said yesterday that I thought I would be surprised if he had to shoulder this alone by the start of week 1 of the NFL season, that others wouldn't be inspired by his courage to take this on himself. And I know that one of the previous times that we had you on the show, we talked about the rumor of perhaps 1, 2, 3, as many as 4 players coming out at one time last year to try and do that, to try and shoulder the burden together, for lack of a better term, kind of some strength in numbers. Would you be surprised if more players aren't inspired to have the courage that this young man has?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And just like our strategy with Michael to do it, to distance it from football, it'd be wise to do the same thing to make the announcement sooner than later. So, if we don't see something happening, around before training camp, I won't expect it to, once again be put on the back burner until after the 2014 season.
Brendon Ayanbadejo joining us here on Tim and Sid. Another conversation that we had in the past was how many rooms were ready for this. And as little as a year ago, you told us that you weren't sure that all rooms were ready for this. How many rooms would be ready for Michael Sam to walk into it right now? Because the beauty of you is that you played. Like, you've been in those situations. You know what it's like in those rooms. And there's this ecosystem balance that I hear these coaches preach all the time that they're worried about. Is that a legitimate concern? And how many do you think could accept?
I don't think it's a concern. The message needs to be handed from the top down. So owners. So you saw Dick Cass from the Baltimore Ravens made a statement regarding Michael Sam. He made statements in the past regarding myself and my advocacy for inclusion in professional sports and in society in general. You see the 49ers have done it. When Jason Collins came out, all of hockey did it. Most of baseball did it. Basketball did it. The NFL didn't say anything. So it's from the top down. You have to have a consistent message. We're not going to put up with discrimination. We want great guys in our locker room. We want the best football players in the world in our locker room. Certain types of language is not going to be allowed in the locker room. You make that message from the top down. When I think of organizations like that, there's a whole myriad of different variables you have to look at. You have to look at the organization, you have to look at the city, you have to look at the locker room, and then you have to look at the defensive scheme that Michael Sam plays in, and where he could go and fit in that. But if we're just looking at purely locker rooms, we're doing a disservice. I think there's teams that have great leadership, like the Pittsburgh Steelers, like the Seattle Seahawks, the Baltimore Ravens, the New York Giants, teams that could handle situations like this. It wouldn't affect them. But then you have to look at all the other factors as well. But I think there's a lot of locker rooms that are ready for it. We saw it in Minnesota with the Vikings. Ziggy Wolf, the owner, was really progressive, but then that wasn't handed down to the hierarchy below him. Right. And you saw some problems with Chris Cluey and Mike Prefer, the special teams coordinator, and the rest of the people, the GM and everything like that. So the message needs to be consistent. It needs to be from the top down. And I think what one thing Michael Sam is going to do is that you're going to see teams coming up with that language and what that language is and what teams are going to put up with. And then it'll start filtering down even more so into the locker room. I'm a guy that loves his results. And the best part of all this, Brendon, is that we're going to force leagues, all four of them, to put their money where their mouth is, especially starting with the NFL. Great story, and I'm so glad that you could take the time and join us. Yeah, thanks for having me on. And it's kind of ironic that the NFL was the first one to do it, and it's the least progressive of the leagues, right? So. Yeah, definitely. And I wish I had more time to explore that with you, too, but we don't. Thanks, Brendon. Really appreciate it.